This Revolting News show is dedicated to Tuli's favorite poem, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam.
Wake! And we're ending now. So wake!
Oh,
wake!
Here we are. We're here.
For the sun who scattered into flight the stars before him from the field of night, drives night along with them from heaven and strikes the Sultan's turret with a shaft of light. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
I'm going to read to you from this 100-year-old or more copy, which I found in a thrift shop somewhere, that has not the version that we're usually accustomed to learning in high school, which is the 5th edition, but actually the 1st edition. So I will read to you something about Omar and read you some quatrains. Okay, now this is by, as you know, Edward Fitzgerald, 1859. Omar Khayyam was born at Nishapur in Khorasan in the latter half of the 11th century and died in the first quarter of our 12th century. The slender story of his life is curiously twined about that of two others, very considerable figures in their time and country, one of them Hassan el-Sabah, whose name has lengthened down to us as a terrible synonym for murder, and the other, who tells the story of the three, Nisam al-Mulk, vizier to Alp the Lion and Malik Shah, son and grandson of Toghrul Beg the Tartar, who had wrested Persia from the feeble successor of Mahmud the Great and founded that Seljukian dynasty which finally roused Europe into the Crusades. The Nisam al-Mulk, in his Wasyab or Testament, which he wrote and left as a memorial for future statesmen, relates the following as quoted in the Calcutta Review, number 59. One of the greatest of the wise men of Khorasan was the Imam Mofolak of Nishapur, a man highly honored and reverenced. May God rejoice his soul. His illustrious years exceeded 85, and it was the universal belief that every boy who read the Quran or studied the tradition in his presence would assuredly attain to honor and happiness. For this cause did my father send me from Tus to Nishapur, and Abu Samad, the doctor of law, that I might employ myself in study and learning under the guidance of that illustrious teacher. Towards me he ever turned an eye of favor and kindness, and as his pupil I felt for him extreme affection and devotion, so that I passed 4 years in his service. When I first came there, I found two other pupils of mine, own age newly arrived, Hakim Omar Khayyam and the ill-fated Ben Sabah. Both were endowed with sharpness of wit and the highest natural powers, and we three formed a close friendship together. When the Imam rose from his lectures, they used to join me, and we repeated to each other the lessons that we had learned. Now Omar was a native of Nishapur, and Hassan ben Sabah's father was one Ali, a man of austere life and practice, but heretical in his creed and doctrine. One day Hassan said to me and to Khayyam, "It is the universal belief that the pupils of the Imam Muwaffaq will attain to fortune. Now, if we all do not attain thereto, without doubt one of us will. What then shall be our mutual pledge and bond? We answered, be it what you please. Well, he said, let us make a vow that to whomsoever this fortune falls, he shall share it equally with all the rest, and reserve no preeminence for himself. Omar's Epicurean audacity of thought and speech caused him to be regarded askance in his own time and country. He is said to have been especially hated and dreaded by the Sufis, whose practice he ridiculed, and whose faith amounts to little more than his own, when stripped of the mysticism and formal complement to Islamism, which Omar would not hide under. Okay, from Edward Fitzgerald's first translation of the Rubaiyat in this 100-year-old or more book that I found in a thrift shop, I'm going to read you some stanzas which are different from the ones you first learned to love in high school. They're similar, but they're different. They start with 1. Awake, for the morning in the bowl of night has flung the stones that put the stars to flight, and lo, the hunter of the east has caught the Sultan's turret in a noose of light. Who's the hunter of the east? It's probably the sun. Dreaming, when dawn's left hand was in the sky, I heard a voice within the tavern cry, awake, my little ones, and fill the cup, before life's liquor in its cup be dry. And as the cock crew, those who stood before the tavern shouted, open then the door. You know how little while we have to stay, and once departed, may return no more. Come fill the cup, and in the fire of spring, the winter garment of repentance fling. The bird of time has but a little way to fly, and lo, the bird is on the wing. Only one word has been translated differently in the 5th edition, to flutter instead of to fly. Here with a loaf of bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou beside me singing in the wilderness, and wilderness is paradise enow. Now, Tuli sings this in Shadows of Paradise. This is probably the most familiar quatrain. And you can see the difference in the first translation. How sweet is mortal sovereignty, think some, others. How blessed the paradise to come. And take the cash in hand and wave the rest. Oh, the brave music of a distant drum. Myself, when young, did eagerly frequent doctor and saint, and heard great argument about it and about, but evermore came out by the same door as in I went. You will hear Tuli sing that in Shadows of Paradise. He liked that quatrain. Moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on, nor all thy piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it. That's probably the most famous quatrain from this poem.
Or we can finish, or are we doing one more?
Another short song here.
We'd love to hear it.
That was.
Yeah, speak on the microphone.
Squeeze the bottom. The bottom.
This was translated by Edward Fitzgerald, written by Omar Khayyam. I don't know who the better poet was because I've seen some other translations that weren't that wonderful. And Edward Fitzgerald spent about 40 years doing these. Anyway, it's a wonderful translation. And the song, the work was the Rubaiyat. You all remember that. And these verses are part of that. And I don't know where I stole the melody from. Anyway, this is called Shadows of Paradise, another paradise. Myself when young did eagerly frequent master and saint and heard great argument about it and about it and about, but evermore came out by the same door wherein I went. Some for the glories of this world, some sigh for the prophet's paradise to come. Oh, take the cash and let the credit go, nor heed the rumble of a distant drum. A loaf of bread, a jug of wine, and thou beside me singing in the wilderness. Oh, wilderness, oh, wilderness, wilderness were paradise enough.
Extremely cool.
Salam, or if you're Jewish, salami.
Oh, yeah, speaking to the
Right.
microphone.
Okay, get me that. All right. You all know the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, right, from high school. But do you know the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam? Okay. Just to refresh your memory. Okay. Omar Khayyam was a Persian astronomer, existentialist, wino poet of the 11th century. Set free by a wealthy friend of having to work for a living, he spent his time looking at the stars, contemplating life and death, getting sloshed, and writing quatrains. Rubaiyat in Persian, hundreds of them. Omar Khayyam had a great-great-great-great-grandson, Omar Khayyam, a.k.a. Tuli Kupferberg, a pacifist poet in the time of the Cold War between the United States and Russia, when the world felt itself on the brink of nuclear annihilation. Nuclear testing was spreading radiation on the earth. People marched to ban the bomb, organized activist group for sane nuclear policy. Well, did we get one? In 2002, President Bush asked Los Alamos National Laboratories to begin developing Earth Penetrator, mini nukes that can be routed underground to blow up bunkers or, say, caves. Meanwhile, the Pentagon expanded its list of possible nuclear targets, formerly limited to China and Russia, to North Korea, Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Libya. Have you heard those names in the news lately? All right. Omar Khayyam didn't drink. Protest was his wine. He loved his grandfather's Rubaiyat above all other poems. In 1962, he made his own translation of 28 of them, the now obscure Birth Press magnum opus, The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. This is it, and I'm going to read it to you. Maybe we can laugh this bomb out of existence or parody it out of existence, I don't know. Okay. Oh, I can't really see this. Okay, wake for the bomb who scattered into flight the jets before him from the dew of night, drives night along with them from heaven, and strikes New York City with a shaft of light. Come pack your pod and in the fire of spring your cancerous carton of Chesterfields fling. The ICBM has a little way to flutter, and the ICBM is on the wing. That's Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. All right. Whether at Moscow or at Washington, whether the Atlas with methane or Mercaptan run, the wine of death keeps oozing drop by drop, the issues of life keep printing one by one. Each morn 1,000 soldiers bring, you say, yes, but where lies the soldiers of yesterday? And this first summer month that brings the bomb shall take London and Amsterdam away. Some for the glories of this world, and some sigh for the prophet's paradise to come. That's P-R-O-F-I-T-S, paradise. Ah, take the girl and let the shelter go, nor heed the rumble of a distant bomb. Think in this battered fallout bin, whose portals are alternate chrome and tin, how president after president with his pimp stood his destined hour in the sun and went in. Ah, beloved, fill the cup that cheers tomorrow, future regrets and past fears. Today, why today I may be myself with tomorrow's 7,000 years. Myself, when young, did eagerly frequent Khrushchev and Kennedy and heard great argument about it and about, but evermore thrown out through the same door wherein I went. For I remember stopping by the trees to watch a copper breaking this cat's knees, and with his all-obliterated tongue he murmured, "Gently, brother, gently, please." Would you that wrangle of existentialism rend about the GPU? Quick about it, friend. A frontier perhaps divides the false from true, and on what CIA prithee may your life depend? You know, my friends, with what a brave carouse I made a second marriage in my house, divorced old Baron Massac from my bed, and took the Orgone's daughter as a spouse. For is and is not, with rule and Rankins, and up and down by logic be inventions, of all that one should care to fathom, I was never deep in anything but strensions. That word doesn't exist, I looked it up. I don't know what it means. And lately, by the holy lock, sweet calm, came shining through the dusk a devil's arm, bearing a vessel in his hand. He bid me sip of it. 'Twas the bomb, B-A-L-M-B. The bomb that can with logic absolute, the 100-odd and jarring states compute, the sovereign physicist that in a trice life's golden metal into lead transmute. Why be this bomb the growth of God? Who dare blaspheme the twisted head cone as a snare? A blessing? Should we use it? Should we not? And if a curse, why then, who said it there? Of threats of bury you, an alliance of paradise, one thing at least is certain, this missile flies. One thing is certain and the rest is lies. The child that once has blown to bits forever dies. I sent my rocket through the invisible, some letter of that afterlife to spell, and by my rocket returned to me and answered, "You yourself are shot to hell." Right? We are no other than a moving row of IBM cards that come and go. Remember Rolodexes? Round with the mercury-vapored maniac held in midnight by the master of the late, late show. The moving mushroom emits, and having amidst moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a rad, nor all your bow wash out a row of it, a rem of it. Oh yeah, these are measures of radiation. And that inverted sky they call the bowl, where under crawling cooped we rock and roll. Lift not your hand to it for help, for it as impotently screws as you or I. Bombs of all sorts and sizes, great and small, that stood along the floor and by the wall. Some loquacious fissures were, and some explode perhaps, but never fuse at all. Then said a second, near a peevish goy would break the great globe which he built in joy, and that he with his hand the neat reactor made will surely not in aftermath destroy. Whereat some one of the loquacious swarm, I think a village beatnik waxing warm, of all this bomb and bomber, tell me then, who is the bomber, pray, and who is the bomb? Ah, with the shield my fading life provide, and wash the body whence the radiations died, and lay me naked on some living babe by some not unfrequented shelter side. And much as hate has played the infidel and robbed me of my naked honor well, I wonder often what the bombers save, one half so precious as the stuff they kill. Would but some winged pacifist ere too late unfold the yet arrested roll of fate, and make the stern dictators clearly see the legend now is love or abdicate. Ah, love, could you and I with them conspire to grasp this sorry scheme of things entire, would we not move its precious bits and keep it at our heart's desire? Would we not save its precious bits and keep it at our heart's desire? And when like satellite, oh Sylvia, and that's Sylvia Top who put all these birth press things together and actually did the art direction for this. And when like satellite, oh Sylvia, you do pass among the victims star spattered on the grass, and in your dreadful errand reach the spot where I am gone, turn down a radiant glass. Thank you, Omar Khayyam. And please, President Obama, no more bombs, especially nuclear ones. All right, so this is your favorite song, Shadows of Paradise from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam?
Yeah, I've always loved the Rubaiyat, and then I discovered that Omar Khayyam had nothing to do with it. Omar Khayyam is an astronomer, and the whole story was made up by an Englishman named Fitzgerald, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And I've always loved that story, and now I'm going to record it.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Right. I'm now going to sing from the Rubaiyat.
Okay, sing it.
Myself, when young, did eagerly frequent master and saint, and heard great argument about it and about it and about, but evermore came out by the same door wherein I went. Some for the glories of this world, some sigh for the prophets, paradise to come. Oh, take the cash and let the credit go, nor heed the rumble of a distant drum. Loaf of bread, a jug of wine, and thou beside me singing in the wilderness. Oh, wilderness, ah, wilderness, wilderness were paradise enough. Tee-ra-dee-ra-dee-ra, tee-ra-dee-ra-dum-da-ra-dee-ra-dee-ra, tee-ra-dee-ra-dum. A loaf of bread, a jug of wine, and thou beside me singing in the wilderness. Oh, wilderness, ah, wilderness, wilderness were paradise enough.